Hi, our guest today is Justin Dulak, who's one of the candidates for the Milford School Committee in the April 2nd annual town election. Justin, welcome.
Thank you.
Glad you could be here. So the obvious question, why are you running for school committee?
Well, first and foremost, I'm running to hit the ground running. More than all the other candidates in this race, I've made my career in education. I studied it in college. I did substitute teaching here in Milford. I'm served on the school improvement council at the high school for the last year and a half or so. I work and for the last 3 years, I've worked in the superintendent's office in Sudbury Public Schools, directly supporting both the superintendent and the school committee there. So I have a wealth of knowledge and experience in education that I'm going to bring with me to the school committee. Now, on top of that, I'm also a born and raised Milfordian. I went through all the public schools myself, so I have firsthand knowledge of how they run, what they're like. And one thing that's really important for me is to preserve a sense of community that Milford has. It's very unique, and I want to make sure we carry that forward into the next generation. When I was a junior in high school in 2007, my little sister, who was a freshman that year, was diagnosed with a malignant brain tumor right before the wrestling season. And I was passionate about wrestling. It was my #1 thing that I liked to do back then. So my mom, despite being pulled out of the workforce because she was a single parent, had to bring my sister into and out of Boston Children's Hospital all the time. She managed to cobble together the money to pay the participation fee for me. Well, a couple weeks after the season started, Nick Zakili, the athletic director at the time, pulled me aside and said, "Hey, here's an envelope. Anything guys you and your family need, you just let me know. That we're all here for you." I didn't open it right then. I waited till I got home. What really hit me and hit us as a family is that inside was the very same check my mom paid the district for the participation fee.
They give it back to you.
They gave it back to us. They never cashed it, never thought about it. That meant the world to us. And then the district doubled down on that a couple years later when my sister went terminal. The thing we always knew was that she was just holding on to get to graduation. And it was January of her senior year by then. I was off freshman at Suffolk University. And the district waived the remaining graduation requirements, any outstanding credits, MCAS scores, all that sort of stuff. They brought her a cap, a gown, and a diploma to her hospital bed in Children's Hospital. And they did a private graduation ceremony for Jill. I have emblazed in my mind the image of Paul Mazzucchelli and Bob Tremblay standing over her hospital bed, awarding her that diploma, and it means the world to me. So I want to. If my goal in running for this office is to use my experience to make sure we keep that feeling in the Milford Public School system.
I think it's a good way to characterize Milford is a small big town.
Exactly.
I mean, it may be approaching nearing 30,000 people depending on what the next census says, but it's got a small town feel.
Absolutely. I was lucky enough to feel that firsthand when I was going through the system. And it's really a reason why after college and after we established ourselves, my wife and I chose to make our home here. We lived in Revere for a year, Medford for a couple of years right after college. But when it came time to purchase our own home, for me, it was absolutely set. I wanted to live in Milford. I remember walking along Main Street when I was growing up, going to Johnny Jack's on half days and TJ Collectibles and having that vibrant Main Street feel. And I want my own children, when we have them, to grow up with that same experience, those same opportunities. That's huge for me. So what we like to say is, my wife got the Victorian she wanted, I got the town I wanted.
Well, that's good. Do you have any set things you want to accomplish? I know it's always tough because the usual saying is it takes a whole term to learn the job. You do have experience in a school system, but do you have any set things that you want to tell people you'd like to accomplish if you're elected?
Oh, absolutely. First and foremost, I think our guiding vision as a district has to be the pursuit of an equitable education for all students. I want to make sure that from the time they enter in kindergarten through graduation, that we're putting students on equal playing field to succeed, that there's always opportunity is always available to all the students equally. And I don't want that to be based upon racial backgrounds or linguistic ability or physical ability or disability. I want to make sure that we're giving students a tailored education that they need to succeed. Now, secondly, I think we need to have a serious discussion in Milford about the state of our school facilities. Last year, the school committee worked with NESDEC to do a comprehensive study of all of our school buildings, and really the results were absolutely alarming. The state of Milford High School is very poor. It's a lot of the parts, including the HVAC system, locks, windows.
Well, it's the only school that hasn't been touched since it was built.
And that's a problem. That means we're not providing for our students a modern education. When we're talking about things like the HVAC system and the windows, that means, and just really frankly, the structure of the building with its big open halls, it's draining heat constantly, and that's something that's going to distract students from their education.
It was something designed for its age.
Yeah, it's showing its age. So we need to have a discussion as a community.
Well, hopefully Woodland came out good in that study.
Oh yeah, it was the best of them. And one of the things the study did was looked at all the some potential options for renovating and reconstructing all Milford High School. Stacy also rated very poorly. There's the renovation there in '94 hasn't held up well. So we need to look at what
from
our
the
options.
outside it looks pretty good.
From the outside, when I was going there 15 years ago, it was great, but apparently it's been a rough interim.
Yeah.
So we just need to start having a discussion as a community about what we want to do, whether it's renovation, reconstruction, what options within that do we want to pursue? Because there's a movement in education right now to try and think about eliminating middle schools or think about how we can handle the middle grades. Because
I don't favor that because they're going through things at that age where I don't think they belong with the younger kids, and I also don't think that they belong with the older kids. I think it's a nice way of just doing it. Where I grew up in New Jersey, we did not have a middle school. We had 1 to 8 in a building, and then high school. Yeah. And you're combining kids basically going through puberty with the little kids, and it doesn't always fit.
That's one of the counter arguments against it. Yeah. The argument for eliminating middle school, and I just want to make clear I haven't taken any position myself.
So you have a junior, senior high school.
Is just reducing the amount of transitions. There's some studies out there that say that students' learning is impacted by having to relearn a high school or a different school every couple of years. The argument is if you let them stay in one building or two buildings, that they'll be able to focus on their education every September.
You also get into the dynamic with the high school. We all know the price of schools these days. And if you're talking about 10 years from now, by the time you go through all the paperwork and raise the money, you'd probably be talking over $200 million for high school. But then the question is, where do you put it? And what do you do with the old one? And then if you're talking about renovating Milford High School, it's where do you put the kids? Because the town, the school committee first, and the town got rid of Middle East, which, in my view, you could have taken, A-Wing, park the kids in Middle East for 2 years while they renovated that, then take B-Wing, park the kids there while they renovate that, and you could redo the whole building. I know it would be a lot because of the structure, but you don't have that option. So in addition to the land for a new one, the cost of a new one, you have, what do you do with the old one? And then you have, okay, if you want to keep the old one, what do you do with the students?
Exactly. These are all the reasons I want to make sure we're having this discussion now. And there is the long-range planning committee that's going to be meeting next Monday, I believe it is. I'm very eager to hear what they are considering. I know a lot of the rumors out there, it's a new school every 5 years. That's not realistic. We have to make sure we're considering feasible
Nobody
options.
could afford that.
Exactly. But I want to make sure that we're considering all of our options in terms of renovation or reconstruction. And I want to make sure that's on the town's agenda, because right now, and this is one of the big things that made me run, we're seeing all the land in town get gobbled up by different developments.
Well, I can tell you the finance committee is well aware there's a new school coming. In fact, Al Crier, who's has that Milford show here on Milford TV, as the capital planning vice chair of the finance committee, is even joking. The joke is you got to put money away because there's a new school coming, and they used to say that before Woodland, and they're saying it again now. So the town officials are well aware it's coming. The question is just, given the price per square foot, municipal buildings are now going at about $475 a square foot. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to do the math and just figure out what you need for square footage, multiply it by that, and the millions go up.
Yeah, it's absolutely true, but it's just we need to have this conversation because there's a need for it. I know one of the things that we've been talking a lot about on the School Improvement Council at the high school are expanding options for non-college bound students. And I'm really proud that we're starting to offer a much more diverse curriculum at that level.
I think that's important because I have to tell you, in the era I grew up it was you got to do well, you got to go to college.
Me too.
Now I've got 3 kids in their 20s, and quite honestly, the feedback I got from all of them is, Dad, the pressure on us at 15 and 16 to pick a college, pick a career was so overwhelming, you can't believe it. And quite honestly, some of the kids aren't college material. And at least when I was growing up, that was stated. There was the college prep course and there was the other course, whether it was military or trade. And it's not, we need people in the trades. There's nothing wrong with it. I have to tell people I made a very good living in communications. But if I had to do it all over again, I'd be a plumber. Just steady work. Always there. You always need plumbing.
Well, and that's what we're trying to get across at the high school level now, because we're reintroducing shop classes and we're reintroducing.
And candidly, BVT has become more of a college preparatory academy than a trade school.
Well, I think if we start building out our curriculum like we are, we're going to start bringing students back from BVT or even keeping them from going to BVT in the first place.
Well, I think BVT keeps them from going there because they have a quota.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's always the admissions part of going to BVT, but I just mean if we build a more competitive, broader curriculum with things like the banking program that we have, with the trades program that we've started, we're going to make Milford High School a more competitive school overall. But that goes back to our facilities argument, because right now one of the things we're struggling with is a space for it.
Right.
Right now we're doing shop classes on top of computers. You got sawdust flying everywhere. That's not good for those.
Not a good idea. When Bob Tremblay was the superintendent, he had a conversation one day, and he said, when somebody starts in kindergarten, he said, I'm beginning to educate them for a job that may not exist today, but will exist in 13 years when they graduate, and I've got to try to predict where that's going. And you think about that, that's not an easy task, because we've gone from, I would say, a overwhelmingly manufacturing economy 40 years ago to much more of a technology manufacturing economy and a service economy.
Bingo. And that's
with the low cost, what I would call, I hate to call them low cost or low wage jobs, going to whatever country pays the least wage, and so a company can make the highest profit.
Oh, absolutely. And we're really tailoring our students to that by introducing a hospitality program. And one of the other things that Principal Otland wants to do that I absolutely support, he wants to adjust the school days slightly so that we can start offering internship apprenticeships for high school credit. So we actually get kids out into the field more frequently so that they're gaining hands-on skills and hands-on experience so that when they graduate, either they can say to their college, hey, I've already done all this stuff.
Well, I'll just interrupt you to throw a great plug in for Milford TV. The director of this show is a junior at Milford High. The first director we had in the first 3 years of the show went through Milford High and is now studying video and broadcasting up at Fitchburg State. Most of the kids here volunteer, want to go into that career.
Yeah.
So they're doing it, and you also have the same program being taught at the high school.
Yeah, I remember the video program when I was going through was something we were absolutely proud of. I did something.
And it's not what we called in my day now I'm losing the term, but the AV club.
Oh yeah.
No, this is real video production and things. The quality of the things put out by the students is awesome.
Oh, absolutely, and it's really a way that you can diversify the education they receive. I remember one of my favorite experiences when I was going through was Joe Bricado.
Yep.
He had his band. He had students make music videos for the band, and I taught them all sorts of video production techniques along the way.
I personally look forward to every year when the senior class gets ready to graduate, they usually do a big video and post it. And I always make sure to go find that because it's just excellent.
Oh, absolutely.
And to see the enthusiasm and the skill level of the kids. I mean, I just look at what people are learning today compared to umpty-ump years ago. I don't want to say how old I am. When I was in high school, the knowledge level is probably doubled. But anyway, so that's a lot of stuff you want to accomplish.
Well, one more if you don't mind.
Okay. No,
mate.
This is your chance to tell the folks.
Yeah, the other real big thing that I want to push for is I want to look at school start times. In 2014, the American Academy of Pediatrics released a study, or a statement really, that said that as students get older, as they start going through puberty, Their biological clocks naturally change so they get up later and stay up later. I don't think that's any shock to anyone who's ever been a teenager or had a teenager in their household.
Not at all.
So,
However, you can say it. I'm going to dispute it, but go ahead.
no, so I just want to, and a number of different organizations from the CDC on have seconded those results. And they say that we should be starting middle schools and high schools at 8:30 or later. I want to start having a conversation as a community about whether that's appropriate for Milford to implement. And I understand there's a lot of different
I just
aspects that
don't
go
know in
into
an
that.
economy where both parents work, where you have sports in the afternoon, if that's viable. Same way changing the school calendar. You know, we're still on the 1880 agrarian calendar of you get the summer off so the kids can go work in the farm fields, you know, which is in this part of the country is ludicrous. Might still work in the Midwest, where if you've ever driven through and, you know, you drive 3 hours through a cornfield, that might work, but it's ludicrous to realize we're in a more than 100-year-old school calendar that doesn't really work. But try to change that and change people's lifestyle is very difficult.
Oh, it's very difficult, but I also think that we have an opportunity to lead here because there's a study, there's actually a bill on Beacon Hill right now to create a commission to study these school start times as a statewide issue. So there's a number of communities have already committed to moving start times back for.
Well, I think if every school did it in the state, it would work. If one or two do it, they're going to be the outliers and mess up, you know, athletic schedules, bus schedules, after work schedules.
Oh, those are all complications we have to work our way through, and that's something we're doing in Sudbury right now. We're having that conversation. For 2.5 years, they've been having parents in, having staff members in. They've been working through all the different complications, all the different issues that are involved with changing school start times. But with it being such a health imperative, and this is actually one that ties into what we've been doing on School Improvement Council with. Where we want to make sure we're preparing our students as much for college as we can, and for post-high school, because one of the things Principal Otten says is, with the way the seniors' schedule is right now, we're still educating them more like kindergartners than we are college students because it's so rigid and so controlled. Well, we want to make sure what we want to introduce at that level is
as you know, when you go to college,
there's huge chunks of free time in there. And classes
you know, the hardest thing is the professor says, you know, you got a paper due in 2 weeks, and they don't remind you.
No.
And you might only have 2 classes in those 2 weeks.
Exactly.
And Professor A wants his paper to be, you know, I was an English major, and I remember you have Professor A wants a 5-page double-spaced paper, Professor B wants a 1-page single-spaced paper, Professor C wants, you know, 2 to 3 pages every week, and you're sitting there, you got to remember, okay, to get an A from this guy, it's that one. I actually had a chart hanging on the wall that I wrote.
You're one of the smart ones.
Well, I tried to teach my kids that you know, when you get out of high school, it's like going to work, because if your boss in real life wants you to do something this way, you do it his way, and instead of getting an A versus a B, you might get a pay raise. Yeah. But you're right, the difference. The other thing I'd like to see the schools add, by the way, is maybe, and I know they're starting to do this, but I'd like to see, at least in junior or senior year, give them an hour a week on things like how to fill out and realize what you're signing in college loan applications, managing your own checkbook, life skills when you're on your own. I've got a child at a college that doesn't have dorms and no meal plan.
Oh, absolutely.
So you have to learn how to take care of an apartment. Fortunately, all my kids learned at Scouts how to cook and how to cook very well, so that wasn't an issue. But, I mean, that's a hard job for kids who've never been out of the house.
Oh, absolutely. I would second that entirely. I've always lamented that one of the things I didn't get in high school was that sort of just, I don't want to say home ec, but life skills
Not home ec, but I will tell you, I still have someone in their mid-20s ask me to iron their dress pants if they're going somewhere they need them, and asking me to sew some things for them. I look at them and go, really? You're 26, figure it out. I did.
Yeah, no, that's definitely,
you know, I lived on my own since I was 21, and, you know, ironing, I figured it out. Yeah, I burned a shirt. Sewing, I figured it out. Yeah, I stuck my finger. Yeah, the buttons fell off.
Yeah, but that's just
you figured it out. It's part of growing up.
Exactly, but that's part of what we want to do at the high school level, really, especially in senior year. Start giving them a little more freedom with their schedule so that they can learn those responsibilities.
I actually had one of my classes where I was, and we're going back to the 70s, early 70s, was an independent study. And basically, I met with the teacher once a month, and I had a 20-page paper due about a week before graduation. And boy, if that doesn't prepare for college, because guess when I left it to start writing? Oh, about a week before it was due.
Yep, that sounds about right.
And just like college.
Yep.
And, basically I had to check in once a month. Here's the progress, here's the research, here's this. But I got to leave high school one day a week. I got to leave at noon because they recognized I was doing.
That you were doing your
No,
work.
I actually went to work and earned money in that time period, and I did all the work on a weekend. But I mean, it prepared you. Just having that option actually prepared me. I was also very lucky. I'm the youngest, and my sisters were in college above me, and I used to visit them all the time.
So you got a little preview.
And got a lot of preview as to their lifestyle and how hard it was or not hard it was to work, and the fact that an awful lot of kids do party all the time at college.
Yeah.
And some of them work really hard. But it was a good experience for me that I think if I were the oldest, I wouldn't have known what to do.
No, and I think one of the other things we're doing in that sense is we're offering a lot of college credit classes at the high school now. We're starting to build out that programming too.
Which is fantastic.
Oh, absolutely. I want to increase those opportunities because one, it introduces kids to the level of the rigor of the college course. And that gives them an idea of what they're going to be getting into if they do decide to pursue that route.
And two, they can knock some credits off and save money.
Bingo. I was very fortunate. I got a lot of loans to help me get through college and some grants. One of the things that helped me the most, though, was the fact that I took AP courses at Milford High. And I was able to knock off an entire semester of college. They told me, hey, you could either stick around, take a few more courses, and pay an extra, I think it was like $5,000 or $8,000, or you can graduate early. I took them up on the opportunity to graduate early. It was into the workforce.
I'll tell you, I actually used college because of the way the requirements were structured. Where I went to college to get the degree in my major, I had at least one course, if not two, each semester, where I could take anything and not declare a minor. So I actually took just things I was always interested in life. That never had a chance to study. So I mean, you probably think I'm crazy, but I voluntarily took a semester in Latin and a semester in Greek.
I mean, that sounds fantastic, but I'm a history dork.
Well, I'm a crossword puzzle nut, and let me tell you, at least the Latin one really helps you get crossword puzzles.
Absolutely.
But I mean, I started taking things like, I went to Catholic school all my life before college. I took a course in Judaism.
I've always thought religious studies. Comparative thing was
I took actually
fascinating.
3 courses in religious studies, just to do it. I took some accounting courses. I took political science classes.
Well, that's really at the heart of a liberal arts education, is that you're being exposed to a variety of different ideas and skills. And I think if we're allowing students to take these college courses and we're giving them that sort of credit flexibility from high school into college, then once they get there, they'll be able to explore more opportunities.
Well, I'll also tell you, though, I had the good fortune to go to school where you had the option of taking grades or just pass-fail. And if it was something I was just interested in, I took it pass-fail.
Yep.
At least in freshman year. I began taking them all in grades in the upper years. But I got a chance to really look at some things that I wanted to look at. I did an introduction, a 2-semester introduction to engineering.
That's cool.
And I was going to be an English major. I still have that knowledge in the background. It really, really helped me. Anyway, we're getting down the wire here. You're one of 7 people. If elected, you'd be one of 7 people on the school committee. So simple math says you need to persuade 3 people to come around your way to do anything. So how would you go about, if elected, getting the votes needed to carry out something you wanted?
Well, I think I'd rely upon my experience. It's the number one thing I'm bringing into this position. Education is my lingua franca. I understand the statistics. I understand the different measures and that we use to move our students forward, and how I think I can make some persuasive arguments based upon those. So I think when I start working with the school committee, I'll rely heavily upon that to help me really achieve the different things that I want to do.
And through your job, you're used to dealing with the superintendent firsthand.
Absolutely. I understand the relationship between a superintendent and the school committee.
What is that relationship? Let's just test you.
Well,
Who works for whom?
The superintendent and the school committee all work for the people of Milford. That's what all the families of Milford. I think that's the first and foremost thing we need to remember, is that we're all here for the children.
Did you think the Milford school system is broken?
I don't think it's broken at all. I think we have a good education system here, and we're making it better by pursuing SEL opportunities at the lower levels, by building out the curriculum at the high school level, and keeping an eye on equity. We're starting to do that, and I want to make sure we continue doing that. So I'm a proud graduate of the Milford Public School System. I think everyone else over the ensuing years since I've left can be, and I want to make sure the next generation are as well.
Sounds great. So one last thing. We've got about a minute left. Here's your chance to talk directly to the voters. Sum up why, because you got a crowded race. You got 2 seats open and 6 people running. One is a former member, one's a current member. So the dynamic of who might get these 2 seats is crazy this year. What would you tell the people? Here's a chance to just address the public and say why you should be one of those 2 candidates.
Yep. First and foremost, I'm going to be the candidate that can hit the ground running. Having studied education, having worked in education, and having served as a volunteer in the Milford Public Schools on the School Improvement Council at the high school, I have the knowledge and the background to help this district thrive from day one as a school committee member, and to take part in all the conversations that the school committee is having. It's going to be a very low introductory curve for me. I'm going to be able to jump right in and take part in everything that the school committee is doing and really help move the district forward.
Okay. Any other last words to tell people?
The election's on April 2nd. My name is Justin Dulak, and I hope I've earned your vote over this last half hour.
I was about to say the same thing and say, Justin, thanks for being here. Appreciate
Thanks for
it.
having me.
And good luck on April 2nd.
Thank you.